Bonjour everyone, how is it going? So today we're going to have a little look at the French defence. I've been playing it like non-stop the last few days. I've had a really good time with it. So thought it'd be fun while I've got a day off and I've had a few drinks. Let's make a video. So the French defence, let's do this. So the French defence is in response to e4. And sort of think of it like a reverse Caro-Kann where we're going to be going for the e6, then pushing up the d5. Carol, we'd be going for the c6, then the d5, but for this, like I say, it is the e6, d5. Now, there's a few things they can do. Normally, what you're going to see is just that pawn coming straight down, trying to control the centre. He can do something like bring out the horsey to the c3, but again, our plan's going to be pretty much the same. We push up the pawn. But, like I say, most common move, by far, is him coming down like so. So, after the pawn goes up, white has a bit of a choice. Are they going to take, or are they going to push forwards? Normally, you're going to see them push forwards. This is the advanced variation. We will have a little look at both. Our main plan of attack is going to be just trying to pile as much pressure as possible onto these pawns here. Mainly this pawn on the d4. So, smashing straight up with a c5. Again, just putting on the pressure. Normally, the white doesn't want to kind of lose these centre pawns, so you'll see them come out with the c3. And again, just keep piling on the pressure. Don't take just yet. Bring up the horsey, because we do have to be aware of this queen coming down on the a4, trying to put us in check. So, horsey up, always a good idea. Plus, we're just adding in the extra layer of pressure. After a normal development move, getting his other horsey out, we can come out with our queen on the b6. Now we have 1, 2, 3 piling on the pressure there. We also have the queen kind of staring down at this b2 pawn, which is always a little bit of a weakness. And black doesn't have too much defense going on here, or not as much. Although don't get overconfident, because you can mess up very easily. Let's just say he comes out with the d3. Looks a bit of a nothing move. And we go and take. He takes, and this is absolutely fine for us. And then we're like, well, you know, I've got 1, I've got 2, he just has the 1. Let's do the exchange. I mean, you can see that analysis bar, you know things are going to go bad. So we've done the exchange, and we're like, we might as well grab back with our queen. So stunning and brave, she goes into battle, captures the horsey. What can possibly go wrong? Oh, he's got us in check. All we can do is block it. We've now lost our castle and opportunities. Lost the queen, and kind of ruined our day. There's nothing we can do from here. All we can do is either resign or just flip the board in sheer frustration. Nah. It's not quite as dramatic online, but you get the idea. So what should we do in this position? Well, just bringing the bishop across to the d2. That's going to stop any threat of him trying to come across like so. Normally, what you're going to see from here is him going castle off. Then we can just quite happily win that exchange. Obviously, the bishop can't come down anymore because our bishop's there blocking it. We're in an okay place. Sometimes you will see him trying to kick you out with the bishop. Well, we are threatening these two, so we can just come across, grab that pawn. Clearly, we're threatening that rook now. Has to move the horsey out the way. We can then just come back, grab the other pawn. We're now up 3 points of material, mate. We're in a completely dominating position. There's other lines and ideas that you can do instead of bringing across that bishop. You could instead come out with the horsey on the h6. Looks a bit of a weird move because yes, he can come down and capture, but we're just going to capture back. We do have the doubled pawns, but this queen is it's a huge threat on that pawn. We can get that back at any time that we want. He may not come down. Instead, you may see him come down with the pawn like so. If he does that, I would just go ahead and just capture. So I would take on the, just looking at probably the b4. And then if he goes ahead and takes back, we can just capture back with the bishop. He'll have to block it, normally like so. But again, we're in a really dominating position. We have all of these pieces out. We have good control of the centre. This pawn's probably going to fall at some point. We're still winning that exchange. We're going to have a good time. Now, there are other ideas in this position. You don't have to go straight up with your queen if you don't want to. With that, if you want to do something different, just bring the bishop straight up on the d7 square. And we're keeping that a4 square nice and safe. Later on in the game, we're going to have plans of kind of rerouting it. So once we've castled off, normally at the queen side, we can then bring it down to the E8 and then look at rerouting it across to the H5 there. And that'll just have it a lot more active and a lot more in play, because this is your bad bishop. It's kind of not really got too much to do at the moment. Again, we're going to be having plans of either bringing the horsey across to the E7, or you can always come across this way like before. The main reason we're doing that, though, is to try and just get it set on this square here, on the F5. This is just quite a good outpost for it, kind of gives it a good, you know, you've got good flexibility for movement there, it's fairly safe there, and it just keeps it nice and active. From here, if you see him come down with just, say, the A3, we know he's planning on bursting open our kind of area there, so just push up the pawn, close off the position a little bit, and then normally you'll just see bishop coming across to here on the E2, just allow him to get off and castle, and we can just start getting our other horsey into play from there. Again, looking at eventually just bringing it up to this square here. And then after castles, we have a few choices from here. Like I say, we're going to be planning on just getting the queen out of the way so we can get castled off. Eventually, we'll be rerouting this bishop. We can look with this horsey coming across to set it on this square here, because that's a nice looking square, looking eventually at jumping across like so, and we'll just be launching these pawns down on the attack there. And yeah, that's the basic kind of key concepts from the French advance. Sorry, words are hard. Now, bringing it all the way back, let's just say, instead of pushing it down, he decides instead to go ahead and take. This is the exchange variation. Well, we're just going to go ahead and take back. And there's a few things that you could do. Maybe he'll come down with a c4, maybe he'll just develop. If he develops, there's a few ways you can play it. If you want the safest way, you can just kind of do exactly the same. And bishop comes out, our bishop comes out. And then after castles and castles, whoopsie daisy, castles, there we are. We're left in this kind of position. It's not too exciting, but it's nice and safe, it's stable. It's not the spiciest position in the world, but you know, you're going to have an okay game. And all we're going to be doing from here is looking at getting the rooks out on the open files, just developing as normal, maybe go for the pin. Again, nothing too spicy, but, you know, you're going to have an okay time from here. If you want something that's a little bit more fun and gets you into just a bit of a crazier position, I would just start bringing out the horse on the c6. So let's just say he carries on, he's coming down, he's kind of attacking us like so. We can either get out the horsey or we go for the pin. I like going for the pin just because, you know, it's a bit more fun. Let's just say this comes out here, he's going to castle off king side. Our plan is going to be to castle off to the queen side here and then just launch the attack with those pawns. So after the bishop comes to the g4, again, we'll just open up a little bit of space there. He can go and get himself nice and safely castled off. Move your queen out of the way and just kind of supporting that bishop a little bit. And let's just say he comes out with his other bishop. Like I say, our main plan, get castled off like so. Before castling off, I would probably just be aware he's going to want to come in and go for that pin. So just getting that a6 up there is always going to be nice. Yes, we might have to deal with the rook coming across and putting us in check, but that's fine. We can always just go and block with the horsey like so. Alternatively, if he doesn't come straight out with it and he comes down with something like, I don't know, the a3 or the h3, like so. With the h3, I would just drop it back. He doesn't want to overextend those pawns, so just dropping it back is absolutely fine. If he was to do that and overextend, again, just drop it down to there. We can always do the bishop exchange, and then we have the rook on a nice open file there. We're castling off to the queen side anyway. And again, if he now decides to come across and pop you in check, just block with a horse, that's absolutely fine. It's nice and well supported, so, whoops, there's not really too much to be overly concerned about, although we do need to hurry up and get castled off soon, let's be honest. Let's just say a3, just do the exchange. Might as well, we've got the doubled pawns there, that's absolutely fine. And then just go for the castle like so. We're left in this position, yeah, you know, analysis bar's saying we're at a bit of a disadvantage, but I mean, it's a fun position, isn't it? Look at it. We're just going to be throwing those pawns forward as best we can, launching a huge attack, and we should have a lot of fun with it. Now, just bringing it back, let's just say after we've done the exchange, he comes down with a pawn on the c4. And it might look a little bit scary, but really, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just come up with the check, get him to block, and then we can just kind of carry on, just, you know, developing as normal. He's probably not going to take straight away. I mean, it'd be terrible if he did, because he could just take back. He can't take because of the pin. But more than likely, you're just going to see him make just a normal kind of developmental move. So bringing out the bishop, just getting it a bit more active and allowing him to castle off there. I would probably castle on the king's side. We can do the same plan as before, but it's just a lot more comfortable in this position, castling off on the king's side, mainly because we have 3 pieces we'd still need to move to get off to the queen's side there. And then he can just carry on developing as normal. And from here, I would just go straight for the pin. And I'll show you why, because once he's done this, we can now capture, he takes back, and then we can bring up the horsey. Now, it might look a funny move bringing up the horse, because he can just push forward that pawn. But really, that is pretty ideal if he does, because if he does, see that analysis bar there? We can just hop across. We now have 1, 2 against his 1 defender. Obviously, he can't move out of the way because of the pin on the queen. He'll have to bring this back. I would do the exchange now, because we're kind of speed running through to an end game here, but we're speed running through to a winning end game. So after takes, and then he takes back, we can then take that. A lot of exchanges going on here. He takes back, and then we can now capture this pawn. It's a free pawn. Just be sure when you capture with the queen and do the queen exchange. Don't go ahead and capture with the horsey. Because you capture with the horsey, he's going to come across with the pin like so. We can't move this guy out of the way. He's going to be bringing down that pawn. It can be salvageable if white plays bad. So let's just say we bring up the c6, just kind of solidifying the area. If he pushes the pawn straight away, it's not too bad. We can come up and offer the queen trade. And if he does go ahead and take, obviously we're just going to jump out of the way, and we're in an okay position from there. But alternatively, if he doesn't push it, he can come across with the bishop kind of threatening us like so. Just say we move out of the way. Now he pushes down like so. It gets a little bit more uncomfortable. If we come up to do the queen trade now, he can just go ahead and take. If we take his queen, he takes back. We can take the pawn, then he can just come down with his rook like so. And you can see we are not in the best position. He has the additional minor piece. He's +2 in material. We're gonna have a bad time, mate. So if we instead take with the queen and do the queen trade, we are now a point up in material. We're in a winning endgame. We're kind of threatening this. We have these 3 who are all going to work together to push towards the end. We're going to be getting our rooks out. It's a much more comfortable and a much more winning endgame for black. Alright, and another variation you may see is him just coming straight out with the horsey on the c3. Things can get a little bit wild from this position. I'd recommend keeping it simple and just going for the pin. You can alternatively bring out the horsey, which I believe is the main line. I'll quickly show you coming up with the pin. So we do that, he takes, and then we get out... Oh, sorry, he gets out his bishop, we bring out the other horsey like so. He comes down to try and kick us out the way, and we can just drop back. No point in taking just yet. We've got a nice pin going on. You know, we've got a good thing going. Let's keep it while we can. Then he comes out, horsey to the e2, just kind of supporting his other one. And we do a similar kind of thing. And then from here, we can just both castle off like so. And we're left in this kind of fairly even, fairly decent position here. Things aren't too bad. It should play a fairly normal kind of game of chess. We can always drop back, start, you know, coming after that with the 2 of these. But yeah, fairly normal game of chess. As opposed to coming out with the horsey. So, pawn comes down and we drop back to the d7. From there, he then gets out the other pawn and gets this kind of lovely triangle going on there. Like the first example, we need to be trying to pile on the pressure to this pawn, so bringing up the c5 like so. He can just carry on developing as normal, getting out the horsey, but again, just adding in the extra defender. We then carry on, again, getting out the horsey, more and more and more pressure, more onto it as much as possible, and then he can get out the bishop, again, just solidifying this. We bring out the queen as before, and once again, we have kind of this going on, but we're also threatening that pawn a bit as well. And yeah, it's going to be similar kind of play as before. I'm not as huge of a fan just because there's some really wild lines with, you know, like this guy coming out, we put him in check, and then, you know, after takes, he can then smash down like so. There is a weird line that Stockfish recommends where we take, and then after takes, we then come across with the bishop. But again, it just leads to a weird line in what feels like a very losing position for black. Alternatively, we can just kind of drop back to here. Yeah, it can just lead to some fairly uncomfortable positions. I would just keep it nice and safe, and let's bring it all the way back. Just go for the pin. It's easier, mate. It's easier. Do have a little play with the engine. Maybe try a few games. You know, bringing out the HORSEY, but if you're kind of lower level, it's just going to put you in like a lot of uncomfortable positions. I'll be honest, there are loads and loads of lines and variations. It would take me all day to cover all of them. There's some of the main ones. I hope you liked it. If you really liked it, please drop a subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Really helps the channel grow. But yeah, you dudes go off, have some fun, play some chess, and maybe check out my last video on the Slav. I'll catch you later.